The title of today's meeting is Cover Up, Networking and Prejudgment, and it deals with whistleblowers and enlighteners, investigators. The topic of today's event, of today's press conference, is our state, the deep state. Who is the deep state? It's people or organizations who ensure that the law is subverted where there is no massive resistance.
I want to report on how the mechanisms work, how the deep state, the state within the state actually dismantles critics and informants. And I do so because I can present my own evidence. We heard a lot in the press about that there is no such thing as the deep state, that there were no V-men infiltrating certain groups. The two groups that are both referred to as Reichsbürger. One group is the so-called Prinz-Reuß group, and then there seems to be another Lauterbach-Gruppe. This is the distinction made. Ralf Dalafini, the lawyer, informed us about the Lauterbach group. Through him, we know that V-men infiltrated the Lauterbach group, and they are supposed to animate the Lauterbach group to purchase weapons, which they didn't want to do. But they urged them now, have actually done everything for you to allow you to buy these weapons. You can actually go to Reitschuster to find this interview. And the Lauterbach group didn't want to buy these arms. And then the V-men said, well, my family is being menaced, you have to do it. And then the poor people collected some money in their families to buy these weapons. What they received were weapons that could no longer be used by the V-men and were then actually detained immediately. This is how things went. And similar things are assumed by the lawyers for the Prinz-Reuß group. This is the information I received. In the Rainer Füllmich case, we also know that a dossier was circulated on how to finish him off. We do not know whether it comes from the BND or the BKA, but it must be some security services, secret services, and that this is not fake news will be shown and evidenced by me. I can prove that these tools were used, and I can also present written evidence. And this is why I want to pave the way for the other speakers today. I will show now how a wrong image is constructed about the target persons through the dissemination of allegations, perfidious accusations. I'm showing a letter here by the district of Gießen. This is a letter sent by the Stabsstelle Law that writes to the Professional Association of German Psychologists and disseminated personal data to the BDP, a professional association, a private association, and they wrongly stated that a university study in psychology had never been completed by me. They stated that I had abused titles. They said that I lacked the qualification as a certified psychologist. I was to be presented to an honorary court, and they accepted this upon violating the privacy of my personal data. So all constitutional rights were basically eliminated and overridden. I only found out about it because I used my lawyer Manfred Müller, and he will follow with his presentation, and he helped me to find out about this. And I was only allowed to see the documents because luckily the clerk was out of the office, and an assistant allowed us to see the documents, and this is how I actually found out everything about what was disseminated in my own district of Gießen. Only a few days later, there was an addition to this criminal complaint for the district of Gießen, because I had actually reported exposed, abused by a sexual therapist. I did an expert opinion with 2 children. One boy, the younger boy, told me that there was a sexual pedagogue coming to the school, that he taught a lesson and talked about dildos and taught them how to put preservatives on top and how oral sex worked, and they giggled. And only a few days later, this sexual pedagogue had returned to their school and had asked to see this 8 or 9-year boy to talk to him alone in a separate room. The teachers at this school in Langens, it's a suburb, admitted and allowed this man to be alone with this boy. He said he wanted to talk to this boy because he had a suspicion. The boy felt so oppressed by this sexual pedagogue. He ran home from the school, told the parents because he was really frightened, and a little time later, the youth welfare office came and stated that probably the older brother had abused this little boy, because the sexual pedagogue had told this. The older brother is only 3 years older, so the boy was really afraid of this sexual pedagogue. The name of the therapist was blackened. Incredible. So this is my psychologist's expert opinion that they've added, and they blackened the name. And this is what's going on in our schools, and the parents don't know anything about it. I actually compiled an expert opinion on this, and then the criminal complaint was actually widened. And then Interpol was involved. Even if I had abused a title, this would have been an offense and not a crime. But in my case, it was handled like a crime. You will find the notice saying that the university, one of the universities that I studied at, had lost its certification, and it was translated very befittingly by the LKA, which is the State Bureau of Criminal Offenses, and the translation was adapted. And the translator said that my certificates had been taken away, rather the license from the university. This is the way, this is the approach when you want to defame critics. I have the official translation, and here it is clearly said that the license had been derecognized from this university. I presented this, I submitted this to the court. Judge Holzmann found this strange, and the judge then contacted Interpol personally again, and he inquired with Interpol whether this was really the correct translation. So this is the judge's inquiry with Interpol. So he asked, was the degree later derecognized, or was the curriculum curriculum later no longer offered and therefore derecognized. And Interpol, the vice president of Interpol, responded, the information they are providing are only designed for Secret Service purposes, but not for judicial purposes. This translation, which was already deemed as wrong in front of the judge, continues to be used by the public prosecutor in Gießen against me time and again. As soon as there are official inquiries from foreign authorities, then this information, this wrong translation is used. And this is what you find in my files. I obtained an acquittal for abuse of titles on the 13th of November 2016. Obtained this acquittal at the local court of Gießen, because the Gießen public prosecutor again appealed. Then we actually had a hearing in front of the district court, and in January, February 2018, I obtained my final judgment, my final acquittal. And one day later, on the 14th of November 2016, so this is a typo, the district manager, Anita Schneider, one day after the acquittal, she again filed a criminal complaint because why she doubts the title, but because the PhD title was not correct. It would take far too long to show you all of the documents. You're acquitted. The next day, you receive the next criminal complaint. And this has been going on for me for 15 years now. This Katarina Novak continues stating that my degrees had been derecognized by the education authority and that I had never obtained a PhD at this university. So both at home and abroad, I am discredited to such an extent unimaginable. These breaches of law committed in office have been covered up by the judiciary for years on end. For 17 years, I've been waiting for the first oral hearing of my action because I sued the city of Gießen in December 2017. I have not received a single oral hearing so far. It is constantly cancelled time and again. And this is why I'm repeating this name, public prosecutor Katarina Novak. I've filed a case against her. And then there is an upper district court, Deichmann, who says, well, this was not okay, but it wasn't that bad. And this is why the public prosecutor is not sued. We always have the right people in the right positions so that they are not punished, but we are punished if we do not defend ourselves. What I found interesting about the whole thing is that the press was always informed before the police arrived. Everything had been cleared to the press, although no final judgment had ever been passed. I'm saying this now because this is what happens to other people, Völlmich, for instance, or the alleged Reichsbürger citizens. This is fraternalization with the third power. I'm just showing you that the press is no longer independent when we look at the mainstream media, or very little.